Good morning and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus, to another analysis and breakdown of the Quran of the Muslims. Yes, we'll be back breaking this thing down verse by verse once again into factual, logical statements in English, so you and I can understand who or what is Allah, what does he mean by the contents of his book, and more importantly for us as non-believers in our lives, how does this affect us in the world today? So as I always do before I start, I'm going to tell you now, before you argue or doubt any of the things I'm about to say or my factual accuracy, please buy, translate and read an Arabic Quran like this one, not an English one because they're different books, an Arabic one. And once you have done so, you'll recognise that all of my notes here and every word I'm about to say to you now is 100% true of the words of Allah and what Muslims believe today. So, if you've been keeping up with the series and you saw the last one, it was a juicy one. We went through the evidence of Muhammad actually being a kind of post-Catholic Jesuit order spy, if you like, a 32nd degree Freemason who is then to set up in the Shriners of the Middle East and the African nations to spread Islam in the hopes that he can actually draw more people towards worshipping a oneness, which is a similar thing as the Catholic Church are doing. And I found that extremely interesting considering how much hate is generated in these places for regular Christians, but for some reason not for the Catholics. So with that in mind, let's carry on where we left off. 168. To the faithless Muslims who say, quote, "You'd not have seen a defeat if we had been with you," end quote. To those ones you say, quote, "Keep death off yourself only by way of Allah. Know and believe it if ye are truthful," end quote, end of verse. So if we break this down, I think what is being said here is to the faithless Muslims. They're the Muslims who didn't go to the front rank of the battle and run towards death before everybody else, because as we found out in the last episode, the way that Allah arranges his troops, and everyone who worships him is a troop of the Holy Jihad, the way that he motivates blind faith and obedience in his troops is he says, everyone who is really faithful and good and wants the bounty and the reward of mercy will go to the front rank and do the first bit of killing, despite the fact that this is the riskiest position to take. And then as you go back through the ranks, I mean, I'm assuming that he even bothers with ranks, maybe that's why he constantly loses all his battles, because he doesn't do that. But let's assume that he does have ranks. Only the ones at the front are considered to be faithful Muslims. So to the other ones who are at the back and didn't get killed, the surviving Muslims, they're the faithless ones who say, "You'd have not been defeated if we had been there," even though they were scared and stayed at the back. That's what Allah is making out here. He's making out that if you weren't at the front trying to get killed first, you're a coward and you're a faithless Muslim. So what you're likely to say is, you'd have survived if we'd have been there, i.e. Allah isn't the one who decides victory. It's just a normal war where if you've got more guys with better weapons and better tactics, then you will beat your enemies. But no, you're not supposed to think that. Allah says to those guys, O Muslims, you say, "Keep death off yourself only by way of Allah. Know and believe it if you are truthful." So what he's saying there, if we break it down, he's saying to the Muslims at the back, you should be at the front. Even though you're going to the front, it doesn't make it any less or more... it doesn't make it any more or less likely that you'll die in that battle, because Allah is the one who chooses whether you live or die, and he did this back at the beginning of the book when he said everything was preordained and he wrote everybody's pathway. Know and believe this if you are truthful. So there's some doubt in here. Allah knows his Muslims are scratching their heads going, this can't be right, surely. It makes no sense that if you run into battle first and you're not organised into ranks, that you're much more likely to die. And in fact we know, because all the battles we have, the guys near the back, they're the only ones that come back. Everyone else gets killed. But no, that's wrong. You only keep death off yourself by way of worshipping enough and doing all the Quran obedience that Allah instructs you to. Keep death off yourself by way of Allah, reading and doing this. Know and believe it if you are truthful, i.e. if you don't believe that and you don't do that, you think that the thing about being at the back saving you is true, you are a fake Muslim. You're not truthful. That's what this means. Even though it is fucking dumb. I've got to stop swearing so much. Guys, please comment me and say stop swearing. I've got into a good habit of not swearing, and since my concussion it's come back. So let's help me here, work on my swearing with me, tell me off if I swear, at all. I don't want to swear at all in future. Thank you. Back to the reading. 169. And know that they are slain, not those who are killed but in service, but by the causes of Allah. They are alive yet in service of their Lord, receiving provisions from him. Allah rewards best all his martyred Muslims. End of verse. So it's a very confusing one, this one, not because it is, the point of it's obvious and the translation was easy, but I feel like the grammar of this sentence is not very good. So let's go through it slowly. And know that they are slain not is not saying that they're not actually slain. What he's saying there is the guys who are killed in battle, the ones at the front that he said are the faithful good Muslims, not the cowardly ones who lived, the ones at the front that got killed, they are slain not. What he means by that is even though they're dead on the ground in battle, their spirits are with Allah, so their spirits are still alive somewhere. Who are killed but in his service of the causes of Allah means because they were killed in a holy jihad, not through any other means. That's the reason they're still alive. They are alive yet in service of their Lord, so they're still serving the holy jihad even past their deaths. So even though before he said when you die in the service of the holy jihad you will get mercies, peace and paradise, now he's saying no, you won't. You're saying the mercy, peace and paradise is not what you get. What you're going to get is continuing the service of the holy jihad despite being dead in the ground. That's what this means. And then he says they're alive yet in service of their Lord. That's the important bit. They're alive in spirit in the either purgatory or the paradise with Allah, serving for the holy jihad, which is his cause, receiving provisions from him. Allah rewards best all his martyred Muslims. So he's literally saying to you here, O Muslims, the rewards that he promises you, you won't get until you're martyred. So if you die, you're not getting them. If you have a disease and you die, you're not getting them. If you're hit by a car, you're not getting them. Any other method of death is a no, you're not getting them. But if you die in the service of his causes, his holy jihad, his end times genocidal prophecy, if you die in that way, then you will get all the bounty, the rewards of the grace and mercy, and the 72 virgins, blah, blah, blah. You'll get everything. That's what he's saying here. Which I find to be extremely suspicious when at the beginning of the book, he didn't say anything about having to martyr yourself. He just said, live a good life as a Muslim and follow the commands of his Quran. And by that point, he hadn't actually commanded you as a main command to go and kill all the non-believers in a holy jihad. So he got your agreement that you wanted to work for him and go to paradise. Then he started dropping in that you have to kill all the non-believers and martyr yourself bit. So he's kind of tricking you here, Muslims, I feel, even though... Yes, I'm a biased evil Jew because I have an Israel flag, is what you will say. It doesn't matter about that. Read and understand this. Allah is telling you this. Allah's not a biased evil Jew with an Israel flag, is he? This is who wrote this. Allah in his Quran of the Muslims is directly telling you this, O Muslims. And if you don't already know this, I suggest you have been lied to by your mosque, your imam, your family, whoever. This is what it says. I'll repeat it for you before we move on. And now that they are slain not, as in they're dead in the field, but they're not actually dead, they're with Allah somewhere, those who are killed, but in service of the causes of Allah, so the holy jihad is his causes, they are alive, yet in service of their Lord, receiving provisions, which is what you give soldiers so they can carry on. So even though they're dead receiving provisions to carry on their holy jihad, and that's Allah rewarding best his martyred Muslims. So they are definitely dead, even though at the beginning he says they're not. They're definitely martyred and dead. But even so, they're not getting peace, they're not getting their virgins, they're still having to carry on the jihad. And we know why that is. It's because paradise is not created yet, and will not be created until me and everyone in my country, everyone in all the European countries, America, Australia, every Christian and Jew and white person is dead. Only then, and when you guys all die, only then will you get paradise. So until then, you're in purgatory, still in the service of jihad. Allah's provisioning you so you can carry on, trying to help your jihad win from beyond the grave as a martyr. That's what this means. 170. They are rejoicing in Allah's wondrous bounty, and receive the good news of those yet to follow them. Fear and grief they have none, for Allah's mercy is upon them. So he recognises now that the thing he said before is that he was going to reward you when you died. Then he said, no, the only thing you're going to get is provisions in purgatory to carry on the jihad. So he's noticed, which is good. Allah, Allah, I commend you for noticing something which previously you wouldn't have noticed. Well done, old chap. You go back to sleep. So I'm glad he's noticed that, and then he has tried to recover his previous error, of promising you something and then not giving it to you. And the way he's doing this is by saying, but these guys in purgatory who I'm provisioning to carry on their jihad despite them being dead, they're rejoicing Allah's good news revelation. They're loving it. They're getting Allah's wondrous bounty, even though in a previous verse he said the bounty is the resources and the wealth on earth. So I don't know how they're getting it in the purgatory afterlife if it's on earth. Maybe there's two, even though he hasn't mentioned that. Anyway, let's carry on. So they're getting Allah's wondrous bounty and they're rejoicing being a martyr with the provisions to carry on the jihad. And fear and grief they have none, for Allah's mercy is upon them. So despite the fact that they're dead, they've got family and brothers still alive, they're having to carry on the jihad, not getting their 72 virgins, and they're in purgatory, and they won't get paradise until the jihad is done, and the day of resurrection arrives after the completion of the end times genocidal prophecy. Despite that, they're rejoicing, the good news is following them, but not the pain and grief of watching the actual jihad happen. So now they must be like, brainwashed, mind-controlled, to only see the good in what's happening and completely ignore all the bad stuff, which they weren't allowed to do in life. So I guess there is a kind of level of mercy in Allah holding one of your eyes shut so you can only see the good. That's what this means. 171. They are receiving Allah's good news revelation and his bounty, and know well that Allah lose not the wage of his faithful Muslims. End of verse. So if we break this down, he's repeating himself again, and the thing that he's repeating is the correction of verse 170. So verse 169. Originally he said, these guys aren't dead, they're in the afterlife in purgatory, still fighting the jihad, so everything's the same, it's just they don't have a body anymore, but they're still contributing. Then he said they're rejoicing in Allah's wondrous bounty, even though it's on earth, so they can't. They don't have the news of anything bad happening, only good news will follow them there. Allah's mercy is upon them. And so that you remember, not the bit he said before that was wrong, you remember the Allah's mercy bit, he's repeating it. And how he repeats it is by saying, they, the dead Muslims in purgatory, are receiving Allah's good news revelation and his bounty, even though it's on earth and they can't actually have it, they're somehow receiving it. And they are not going to lose any wage because they are faithful Muslims. So even though they're in purgatory, they're dead, they don't have a body, they're still going to get paid. The provision he's giving them isn't enough. They still need money. It makes no sense at all, but it's what it says. If you don't believe me, buy it, translate it, and read it yourself. It absolutely 100% does say this. The translation is perfect. I've had it checked by an Arabic speaker, and he says it's absolutely 100% perfect. So that's what this means. 172. After grievous wounding, those who came to Allah and his messenger and respond to all the other faithful Muslims to encourage them and deter them from feeling any fear, gain a greater wage even then. End of verse. So what he means here, after grievous wounding, those who come back to Allah and his messenger are dead. Even though he's saying grievous wounding as if they didn't quite manage to die, they return to Allah and his messenger Muhammad, who are living in the underworld, in the darkest depths, which he's told us about previously, or in the purgatory, which is where Muhammad is. So what he's saying here is, after your grievous wounding, O Muslims, if you then die, so you didn't directly die from your enemies killing you in the jihad, you got wounded and then you died from your wound, that also counts as dying in the service of the jihad. Which is kind of, okay, Allah mate, come here again. This is the first real mercy you've actually shown your Muslims, and I'm really happy that you have at least got some idea of what a real mercy actually is. Yeah, I'm really proud of you just for that one bit. Even though the rest of this is trash, that one bit's really good. Well done, Allah. So the real mercy which I'm spotting here is, even though him sending his Muslims to death, telling them to stand at the front and die first, and saying the ones at the back who don't die are cowards, the mercy he's giving them is when they're grievously wounded in battle, but then they don't die immediately. You know, like Muhammad was poisoned and didn't die immediately. He was poisoned by one of his Jewish slave girls and he died later. That person who died later still is counted towards the jihad death toll. Even though they didn't directly die in the jihad, they go towards it anyway, and that is a mercy. because they are now going to be treated as if they did kill a bunch of Jews and do well in the jihad, even though they didn't actually kill anyone. So in terms of Allah, that's the most merciful thing he has yet done. And I've got to say, I'm very surprised even to find that in here, because so far his mercies have been cutting the heads off of the non-believers and deciding not to torture people, just to kill them immediately. There has been no mercy for his jihadis. But this is the first mercy that he's giving them. So well done, O Muslims, you have earned your first mercy of being so badly wounded in battle that you cannot continue and that you are soon to die. So the battle moves on without you, then you die. You're considered to be a successful jihadi anyway. So it is a mercy, and it's a good one, because then you go to purgatory with Muhammad, and then hopefully on from there to paradise once your brothers who are still alive manage to kill all the Jews, Christians, apostates, atheists and pagans in the end times genocidal prophecy, of which this book has as its goal the religion of peace. Anyway, let's carry on. 173. Whose brothers heard, quote, "You should fear those who've gathered a large army against you," end quote. But Allah increases their faith, and then say to them, quote, "Allah is sufficient and the best guardian," end quote, end of verse. So if we break this one down, we're still talking to the cowardly Muslims at the back who he said weren't faithful, and we're trying to encourage them to be more faithful and more brave so they can go to the front and run in and be the martyrs for next time. So you guys who are cowardly Muslims in the last battle who survived, this is what you're going to do next time. If you are saying to your brothers, you should fear those guys and not run in and get yourself martyred straight away, Allah will increase your faith if you then say to them, no, run in. Don't worry about dying. Run in with no regard for your own safety. Allah is sufficient and the best guardian. So don't worry about staying at the back and being strategic and using bows and arrows to thin out the troops and then run in and flank people in ranks, like a conventional army the Christians and Jews are both doing, why they're so successful. Don't worry about any of that. The way you're going to win is to run in, Allahu Akbar, and you're just going to try and kill as many people as you can before you are killed, and then you become a martyr. And the reason this is going to increase your faith, O Muslims, because Allah is sufficient and is the best guardian. That's what this means. This is exactly the kind of thing why Muslims throughout the ages lose virtually all of their battles. They are very disorganised, and as we can see, Allah is not a great tactician. The strategies of his armies are suicidal. That's before he sends them into battle as suicide attackers, assassins who blow themselves up. Even when they're lining up before battle, and the commander with Muhammad behind them is saying, right guys, get ready to run in. Don't bother with ranks, don't bother with bows and arrows or flanking manoeuvres, nothing like that. Allah, let's go. And then they just run in. That's what he's saying here. If you do that and you tell others to do that, Allah is sufficient and will be your best guardian. Better than, tactics and stuff. That's what this means. 174. Have I missed one? 174. So away they turned with Allah's grace and bounty, so evil could not find them, to allow only the orders of Allah, who does possess for them a great bounty. End of verse. So I think what's happening here, so away they turned means the guys we were just talking to who were previously cowards, now we've motivated them by saying Allah's your best friend and guardian, don't worry about armour, tactics, flanking, air support, none of that. All you need to worry about, brave, faithful Muslim, is running at the non-believers and going, Allahu Akbar, and trying to kill as many as you can before you are martyred. If you do that, you will be considered a good Muslim and Allah will be your guardian. So away they turned, as in those guys who've just had the new instruction. Away they turned with Allah's grace and bounty in mind, so evil could not find them. Even though they're about to be killed in a battle, that's not considered evil. What would be evil is if they stayed at the back and weren't killed. That's what Allah is making clear here. To follow only the orders of Allah, who does possess for them a great bounty. So he's saying, come on Muslims, get yourself martyred as quick as you can, because I've got this great bounty for you in purgatory, and then in the end days, when we've killed everyone, in paradise. So get to it. You're obviously not worshipping me hard enough, and you're not killing those Jews quite quick enough. That's what this means. And Allah proves once again that in his mad rush to annihilate everybody else on the planet who doesn't obey him, he's wasting the lives of his Muslims. Think about it, O Muslims. If you had a good general who wasn't following Allah's specific strategies, like a general like the Christians had, who organised you into ranks and platoons, and set some of you up for artillery, some of you up for air support, sent scouting, raiding parties in, some of you would be spies, some of you would stay back, some of you would attack from the sides, and then you could circle around and attack from the back to surround your enemies, not just throw everyone in at once from one single direction with no planning at all. If you were doing that instead of what Allah's telling you, not only would you win all your battles rather than constantly require Allah's assistance with his 8,000 angels and still half of you get killed, instead of that, you'd be running in, organised, motivated. You wouldn't be fearful because you'd think, right, we have a plan and it's a good one. You'd have faith in the plan. And you'd probably win a lot more of your battles without having to be slaughtered first. And then when you were coming back, you wouldn't be getting called cowards by Allah because you didn't run in straight away. You'd be triumphant victors of many battles. But no, Allah is not allowing you to do that. He's saying, forget about that, turn away from all that, go towards what I'm telling you, says Allah in the book, run towards, wa la 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 la, Allahu Akbar, try and kill everyone, martyr yourself. Then when you're dead, you'll get Allah's grace and bounty. Evil won't be able to find you, and you'll meet Allah who has this great bounty for you in the afterlife once you've died. That's what this means. And then we reach the last verse, 175. Surely it is only Satan who allows for his friends to feel fear. Fear not others, O ye Muslims, fear ye only of me, and you shall become the true believers. End verse, end of reading. So I think this verse encapsulates nicely the teachings of this page of Quran. Surely it is only Satan who allows his friends to feel fear. Or is fear a natural defensive reaction of logic and intelligence which we will naturally have so that we don't run into certain death and get ourselves martyred, so that we can live another day after having defeated our enemies? Is that maybe what fear is for? Or is fear a completely bad thing that we should be terrorising other people with? Because remember, if only Satan allows people to feel fear, 2 episodes ago Allah was telling you, O faithful Muslims, you have to strike fear into the hearts of the non-believers. You have to be terrorists. And that's your first, main and only goal in life, to enact the genocidal end times prophecy through the method of the Holy Jihad by striking terror into the hearts of the non-believers and then killing them. But he's forgotten about that, and now he's saying surely it's only Satan who does that. It's only Satan who allows people to feel fear. And for you, O Muslims, fear not others, fear you only Allah, and then you shall become a true believer. So you're not a true believer until you've been martyred. That's what I think this means. Even though I'm reading between the lines here, fear ye only of me, and ye shall become the true believers. So it's future tense. It's not past tense. You shall become. Not you are or you were. You shall become. Once you've done the Holy Jihad and died, or if you manage to survive past all the Jews, Christians, apostates, atheists and pagans, then you shall be. At that point you shall be a true believer. But until then, no, you're not. You're just one of the fake cowards at the back. So get on your knees, worship Allah, run into battle and die, martyr yourself, and make sure you kill as many Jews and Christians on the way out as you possibly can. And only then will you get Allah's grace and his great bounty, avoid the evils of everyone else, and become the true believers as per the Quran of the Muslims and Allah and Muhammad. So that's the end of this video. I feel like there's not much of a summary needed after that. The summary of this page is Muslims, you're cowards unless you run in with no plan and get yourself martyred. But if you do that, it's great and you'll be wise and beautified with the huge bounty and grace and mercies of Allah. Although you won't be able to go to paradise yet, because you'll have to support the jihad beyond your death from purgatory with the provisions Allah's going to give you and Muhammad making sure you don't cheat and you don't get away with it. You still have to have this thing. So your whole life is war, then you die, your death is war, until the end times genocidal prophecy at some point in the future, if all the Jews, Christians, apostates, atheists and pagans all get slaughtered and there's some Muslims left, then and only then will you get paradise, 72 virgins and peace. Sound good fun? Well, that is what you have to do if you are a Quran of the Muslim and you want to be considered a true believer by Allah, rather than someone who is closer to an infidel and is a coward, says Allah in his book. And that is the end of this video. So that was fun, wasn't it? Hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless, and I'll see you later on at 4:15 when we're back with Without Lies, Islam Dies, episode 81. Until then, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. Yeah, so apologies for the swearing. Like I say, remind me in the comments not to swear. I want to stamp that out completely. And I swear you will have a lot of fun if you come back here for 4:15 for the next episode of Without Lies, Islam Dies. In the meantime, have a great day, God bless, and I'll see you back here then.